We interrupt this regularly scheduled programming to bring you a special CNN report on ISIS. Our field reporter, Grant Molinoff, has more on the story.
Last Monday, 6 Somali Minnesotans were charged of conspiring to join ISIS after attempting to make several trips to Syria. Among the charged are Mohammed Farah, 21, Adnan Farah, 19, Abdurrahman Yasser Duad, 21, Zachariah Yusuf Abdurrahman, 19, Hanad Mustafa Muse, 19, and Guled Ali Omar, 20 years old. They all attempted to provide aid to the Islamic State. The men were caught in San Diego and Minnesota. 4 of them were caught at JFK International Airport trying to board a plane to Syria. One managed to actually get on the plane, but was hauled off by authorities shortly before departure. On April 20th, the 6 men residing in Minnesota, ages 19 through 21, were charged for attempting to join ISIS, a foreign terrorist group. But why would these Americans want to join the Islamic State? I'll tell you. These men demonstrated what is called peer-to-peer networking, a popular recruiting technique used by the terrorist group. People are made aware and drawn towards the cause by small groups of people or social media. And on top of this method, it seems that these specific men were also in contact with an ISIS recruiter. Very unusual. The American Abdi Nur had successfully made it into Syria and proceeded to convince the Minnesotans to join him. To simplify it, peer-to-peer networking is pretty much peer pressure. It's friends getting friends to fight for their terrorist cause. ISIS is far beyond any other group of its time in technology use, and it assists in their recruitment. The size of ISIS is still highly debated by the intelligence community. The lack of knowledge on ISIS has allowed them to progress much farther than anyone could have predicted. President Obama himself expressed surprise and distress over ISIS's advance into Kurdish territory. The radical group has conquered massive territory, including Mosul, a quite large city. The force has not yet attacked Baghdad, a city populated by more than 5 million Shiite Muslims, the opposing sect of Islam. Intelligence forces believe that this restraint is because ISIS does not yet have the power or size to conquer such a formidable force. Currently, ISIS has made mass movements against Assyrian culture in Iraq and Syria. They have been decimating old ruins. ISIS fighters were seen destroying Iraq's ancient Assyrian city of Nimrud in March. Nimrud lies close to ISIS's main stronghold, Mosul, just in the northern Iraq. They destroyed millions of dollars worth of ancient artifacts, which were believed to be possessed by gods during their times. On March 9th, Islamic forces attacked Khorsabad, 12 miles northeast of Mosul. It was an ancient Assyrian capital. Khorsabad was one of the 3 cities that served as a capital during the empire's reign, and it was abandoned after Sargon's death in 705 BC. Khorsabad was ahead of its time in its unique style and depth of documentation of its building process. ISIS agents can also be seen destroying precious artifacts in the Mosul library. Over thousands of books were burned, along with rare 18th century Ottoman-era manuscripts. All of these instances of vandalism, along with many more including the Mosul Museum, Jonah's Tomb, the ancient city of Hatra, and many more, are examples of their savageness. Currently, ISIS is making mass roads in technology advances. They're known for their technological prowess. They are more active on social media than any other extremist group before them. With the ability to get tens of thousands of accounts to retweet their messages on Twitter, their reach has grown farther than all predecessors. Twitter has released a statement saying they suspended around 1,000 accounts directly linked to ISIS. Their strong presence within social media is key in drawing foreigners to their cause. This seems to be the greatest immediate threat to the United States. With the significant strides forward in communications over the years, it is not necessary to know a member of the radical group. One only needs to read their propaganda online or see the terrorist televised clips to be persuaded to join the movement.
Thank you, Grant, for that illuminating illustration of the current threat that ISIS poses. Now we'll look at some history of ISIS in order to gain a better perspective.
In its most general sense, ISIS is merely a reincarnation of other prominent jihadist groups, such as Al Qaeda, Boko Haram, and Al Shabaab. Most Americans have a general sense of what jihad is, but this concept is key in understanding both ISIS and other terrorist groups. Jihad, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, means a holy war waged on behalf of Islam as a religious duty. This idea is similar to the idea of the Crusades that the Christians carried out in the Middle Ages and is tied to a strict and puritanical interpretation of Islam called Salafism, or even its more radical version, Wahhabism. Both Salafism and Wahhabism are movements within Sunni Islam for a return to the traditional beliefs and customs of the early followers of Muhammad. This is analogous to the Puritans because they strongly enforce their religious law, Sharia, with the same intensity as the New Englanders not long ago. However, Salafism and Wahhabism take this intensity a step further and demand that those who believe must also actively seek out and destroy those who don't follow their interpretation of Islam. According to the founder of Wahhabism, Abd al-Wahhab, those who do not conform to this view should be killed, their wives and daughters violated, and their possessions confiscated. This is the motivation for the radical ISIS we know today.
Also important to understanding ISIS is knowing its history. According to Stanford University, ISIS, the organization we know it now, has gone through 3 separate periods. Its founding in early years under Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, a period of decline from 2006 to 2011 after his death, and its current expansionary phase under Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, prompted by the Syrian civil war. Zarqawi, a Jordanian, became radicalized while in prison, serving for drug possession and sexual assault. After his release, he left for Afghanistan to join the Mujahideen and fight the Soviets, but found that when he had arrived, the fighting was almost done. He was soon arrested again for plotting against the royal family of Jordan and became renowned for his religious views while in prison. After his second stint in prison, Zarqawi received seed money from al-Qaeda and founded the predecessor to ISIS called Jamaat al-Tawhid Wali Jihad, commonly known as JTJ. While receiving the money from al-Qaeda, they differ from al-Qaeda in 2 key ways. ISIS focused on the near enemy, or the corrupt Middle Eastern regimes, while al-Qaeda focused on the far enemy, or the U.S. and the other Western nations that supported those regimes. The other difference is in their tactics. ISIS targets Shiites in order to incite sectarian violence, and that follows its religious views. It also publicly broadcasts its beheadings and uses many other violent techniques. While al-Qaeda generally avoids attacks on Shiites and the brutal tactics in order to maintain a positive view in the Muslim world. However, in October 2004, the group pledged allegiance to al-Qaeda and changed its name to Al-Qaeda in Iraq, also known as AQI, in order to receive more support in its fight against the U.S. invasion of Iraq, which had started in 2003.
In June 2006, Zarqawi was killed by an American airstrike, which started a period of decline for ISIS. Abu Ayyub al-Masri, an Egyptian, took charge over the organization. Masri continued the insurgency against the United States' presence in Iraq, but started to experience backlash due to its violent tactics and its majority of foreign presence in the leadership of the group. They attempted to fix this public relations problem by making Abu Umar al-Baghdadi, an Iraqi, the figurehead ruler. Popular support continued to dwindle, however, and many Sunnis in Iraq joined the U.S. side in the so-called Anbar Awakening, with the promise of being included in the new Iraqi government. U.S. attacks also decimated the group, with 36 of al-Qaeda and Iraq's 42 leaders killed. This included both Masri and Baghdadi, who were killed in a joint U.S.-Iraqi raid on April 18, 2010. The group, however, came back to prominence under the leadership of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The resurrection of the group started with the withdrawal of the United States-led coalition from Iraq in 2011. This significantly decreased the pressure of the group. The Syrian civil war, which started during the Arab Spring riots in 2011, created a place of lawlessness that allowed al-Qaeda in Iraq to expand into the region, establish effective training bases, and recruit from the dissatisfied local population. Due to the expansion, the group was renamed in April 2013 to the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Meanwhile, Iraqi President Nouri al-Maliki began his unpopular rule. Maliki, a Shiite, began to eliminate Sunnis from positions of power throughout his government. In violation of the agreements that had been signed between the U.S. and the Sunnis that had previously fought against ISIS as part of the Anbar Awakening. This caused a rise in popular support for the Sunni-led ISIS. These newly favorable situations allowed for the rapid expansion of the state in 2014 with the capture of Fallujah and Mosul, the second largest city in Iraq. ISIS currently controls around half of the territory of Iraq and around a fourth of Syria. On June 29, 2014, the group declared itself a caliphate under the name the Islamic State, with al-Baghdadi as caliph.
Now that we've learned the history and motivations behind ISIS, we will go to an interview with Jamin Park about the current threat ISIS poses. Today we have Jamin Park, a national security advisor, to talk about the threat that ISIS has posed to us. How are you doing today, Jamin?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. So let's get right down to business. Why is ISIS a threat to the United States of America?
Well, the reason why ISIS poses a threat to the United States is because they function as a state. This is different from, say, Al-Qaeda, which functions simply as a terrorist network. The sheer fact that ISIS is now capable of capturing territory is terrifying. Just a few months ago, ISIS forces captured Mosul, the second largest city in Iraq. This just simply demonstrates the power they possess and the ability and willingness to disrupt the already delicate environment in the Middle East. Another threat is the use of their primary weapon, propaganda. The amount of fighters that ISIS has recruited from foreign countries to join their cause hovers around 17,000 to 19,000 members, according to Radio Free Europe. ISIS's propaganda machine utilizes social media as well as verbal distribution to convey their message and attract possible recruits. They are popular amongst poor Muslims across the globe due to their promises of wives, riches, and an overall greater glory in exchange for dedication and service to the ISIS cause. Due to the fact that many Muslims across the world are looked down in a negative light due to former terrorist attacks, including the hijacking of 4 American planes in 9/11, the 2010 Stockholm bombings, as well as the Luxor massacre, and many other incidents. Many feel attracted to ISIS's message due to that fact. In places such as France, one of ISIS's biggest recruitment spots in the West, the vastly Muslim minority is discriminated against and disliked by a vast majority of the French. This often leads to a greater influx of potential ISIS fighters, as ISIS promises to offer better lives to their fighters. The fact that ISIS feels purpose in many of their members is another dangerous weapon they possess. The idea of having a purpose in one's life can cause one to be unable to think rationally. The value of having a cause is often represented in suicide bombers, so committed to their cause that they're willing to blow themselves up to microscopic pieces to become a martyr for ISIS.
So, what other threats has ISIS made against the world?
Although it is highly unlikely, ISIS has actually threatened to capture the President of the United States and behead him, and to turn America into a Muslim state. Among the more plausible threats, however, ISIS has revealed plans to take the conflict worldwide, as they threaten to plant car bombs in France and Belgium, as well as execute the Kurdish president.
Why can't we just send more troops into the area to fight ISIS like we have in the past with the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War?
So are you asking why we can't simply just send an influx of troops to fight against ISIS?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the problem with that, Grant, is the fact that ISIS does not follow the typical rules of war set by the Geneva Convention in 1929. They have no concept of conscious war, and instead of keeping prisoners in tolerable health and safety, they execute them in gruesome methods, almost as if we were back in the Middle Ages. For example, several months ago, ISIS actually captured a Jordanian pilot and executed him by burning, which is a rather brusque method of execution. In essence, the soldiers that we send to fight ISIS would face no quarter when surrendering, and it would be inhumane warfare, something that we simply cannot tolerate.
Okay. So if we cannot send in combat troops to fight ISIS, what are the White House's current plans to combat ISIS?
Well, currently, the United States is spearheading a coalition of over dozens of countries, as well as their Middle Eastern allies, to combat ISIS. The United States is primarily assisting with bombing of strategic ISIS targets, taking out bases crucial to the ISIS cause. However, combating ISIS is no easy task. Currently, ISIS fighting forces hover around 31,500 members, according to a recent CIA estimate. Although this is no easy task, we are moving step by step to eradicate the world of terror, the terror that ISIS poses among the hearts of many throughout the world.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here. My fellow Americans, tonight I will speak to each and every one of you as to what we as a nation will do to combat ISIS, a ruthless terrorist organization that now has a capability to function as a hostile state. The United States and our friends and allies have taken this problem to the highest priority, and plans for intervention are underway as we speak. As Commander-in-Chief, it is my utmost duty to provide security to these United States, and in the past months, my administration has worked with numerous intelligence agencies as well as the Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee to address the terror throughout the world. Together, we have squashed Al-Qaeda, taking out Osama bin Laden, thus expelling the world of the terror he brought upon our people. Together, we have been able to reduce the efficacy of Al-Qaeda, and although they are still a prominent threat today, their terror capabilities have been significantly reduced. However, in the midst of the chaos that had ensued, a new terror organization, the Islamic State of the Levant, has risen to prominence. Now these terrorists possess a weapon of a different kind. They can function as a state, something Al-Qaeda did not have the facilities to do. Now, in a region that has known so much bloodshed, these terrorists are unique in their brutality. They execute captured prisoners. They kill children. They enslave, rape, and force women into marriage. They threatened an entire religious minority with genocide. In acts of barbarism, they took the lives of two, not one, but two American journalists, Jim Foley and Stephen Sotloff. As a nation, we will not stand idly by whilst these terrorists wreak death and inhumanity throughout the Middle East. We must send a message to the world. America, our endless blessings bestow an enduring burden, but as Americans, we welcome our responsibility to lead. From Europe to Asia, from the far reaches of Africa to war-torn capitals of the Middle East, we stand for freedom, for justice, for dignity. These are values that have guided our nation since its founding. Tonight, I ask for your support in carrying that leadership forward. I do so as a commander-in-chief who could not be prouder of our men and women in uniform. Pilots who bravely fly in the face of danger above the Middle East, and service members who support our partners on the ground. When we helped prevent the massacre of civilians trapped on a distant mountain, here is what one of them said. We owe our American friends our lives. Our children will always remember that there was someone who felt our struggle and made a long journey to protect innocent people. That is a difference we make in the world. And our own safety, our own security, depends upon our willingness to do what it takes to defend this nation and uphold the values that we stand for. Timeless ideals that will endure long after those who offer only hate and destruction have been vanquished from the earth. The murder of Americans will not be tolerated in any way, and there will be severe repercussions to these actions. However, we must acknowledge our role as a global power. We wish to avoid another Vietnam, and henceforth have decided to enact airstrikes in correlation with the UN Global Peace Initiative, with the full-fledged support of NATO and our other allies. May God bless our troops, and my God bless the United States of America.